This is the shocking case that shook Hong Kong. The corpse case of a 25-year-old girl who lived with 3 men, one of whom was a taxi driver 18 years older than her. However, after just 6 months of being together, the driver lured her to a cemetery and killed her. Initially, everyone thought the taxi driver was out of his mind, but when the truth came to light, it was revealed that the real culprit was the girl herself. She had 2 boyfriends at home, yet every week she would meet the taxi driver at the cemetery for a date. In just a few months, the taxi driver was completely drained, both emotionally and financially. Even many netizens commented that the girl's behavior was disgusting. Finally, when the girl made an unreasonable request, the taxi driver stripped her belongings in the car and threw her into the sea, intending to feed her to the fish. The girl struggled in the water for a full 5 hours. Her name was Yu Huiyu. She was born in Huizhou, Guangdong, in 1985. When she was 12 years old, she moved to Hong Kong with her parents. After graduating from university, she worked as an accountant at a company in Shenzhen, Hong Kong. By all accounts, this girl was not only beautiful, but also kind-hearted. She was filial to her parents and treated her colleagues, especially the male ones, very well. Every time she worked overtime, she would ask different male colleagues to take her home, and the next day they would come to work together, happy as usual. Her appearance and demeanor made it clear that she was extraordinary, which led many male colleagues to pursue her. But in her heart, Yu Huiyu was these colleagues. She had always wanted to marry a foreign man, so she could leave Hong Kong for a better country. So, she spent almost every evening in bars looking for friends. In February 2010, she met a German man named Thomas. After just a few hours of dating, they fell deeply in love. A few days later, Yu Huiyu even posted their relationship on social media, and they moved in together. However, not long after, Thomas was transferred to Beijing for work. For Yu Huiyu, this news, but it also gave her the freedom to do whatever she wanted. From the night Thomas left, she returned to the bar scene every evening to look for friends. Since the bar district was some distance from where she lived, she took a taxi almost every night. It was during this time that she met the man who loved her to death, but would also eventually take her life. This man's name was Wen Jiankong. He had previously served as a patrol officer for 7 years, but was dismissed after assaulting a victim he found attractive and filming the act. For that, he was imprisoned for several years. Upon his release, Wen Jiankong found it difficult to find decent work due to his criminal record, so he became a taxi driver. That fateful night, as Wen Jiankong was driving around the bar district as usual, a seductive girl wearing an alluring fragrance climbed into his taxi. The girl was none other than the victim, Yu Huiyu. Wen Jiankong immediately captivated by her beauty. He later learned from their conversation that she was 18 years younger than him and had a German boyfriend. Although Wen Jiankong tried to suppress his emotions, he eventually gathered the courage to propose, "How about I become your exclusive driver? I'll pick you up from the bar every night." To his surprise, Yu Huiyu agreed. Phone numbers. From that point on, Wen Jiankong would arrive at the bar every night to pick her up. Initially, he would only watch her from a distance as she entered the bar and left again, but eventually he began yearning for more. One evening, as a joke, Yu Huiyu said, "Give me a discount." Wen Jiankong seized the opportunity and replied, "You're so beautiful. How about I just give you free rides?" Understanding the implication, Yu Huiyu smiled, and at night didn't pay for her ride. She even asked Wen Jiankong to take her home, claiming she was scared. This marked the beginning of their affair, and Wen Jiankong soon became entangled in a romantic relationship with her. Despite knowing that Yu Huiyu had a boyfriend and that he was 18 years older than her, Wen Jiankong didn't care. He believed that as long as he tried hard enough, he could win her over. Over the next few months, Wen Jiankong would give her money, buy her meals, and take her shopping. However, this left Wen Jiankong, who already had a modest income, even poorer. By July 2010, the two had grown close, and Wen Jiankong was completely infatuated with her. But then, to his dismay, her German boyfriend Thomas returned to Hong Kong. Feeling crowded with 3 people in her life, Yu Huiyu told Wen Jiankong that they should take a break from seeing each other. Although Wen Jiankong knew about her boyfriend from the start, he still felt dejected. Nevertheless, he continued to maintain regular contact with her, serving as a backup. A few days later, Yu Huiyu reached out to Wen Jiankong, asking to borrow 10,000 Hong Kong dollars to buy furniture. Sensing an opportunity, Wen Jiankong suggested they continue meeting on a weekly basis. Surprisingly, Yu Huiyu agreed. One night after they met, Wen Jiankong took her to a cemetery, thinking no one would come. After their affair, Wen Jiankong gave her 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. Little did he know, Yu Huiyu took the money and immediately bought a large TV, which she used to watch the World Cup with Thomas. Meanwhile, Wen Jiankong worked tirelessly as a taxi driver, unaware of how he was being manipulated. This secret relationship continued for 3 months, with Yu Huiyu meeting Wen Jiankong weekly at places like the cemetery or funeral homes. Wen Jiankong continued to give her money. In late October 2010, she invited him out again and they returned to the cemetery. However, this time, they were interrupted by 2 men peeping through the car windows. After chasing them away, Wen Jiankong was furious. That's when Yu Huiyu dropped a bombshell. She was going to marry her German boyfriend and move to Germany, meaning they would no longer meet. Worse still, she asked Wen Jiankong for 10,000 Hong Kong dollars in breakup money to pay off her debts without letting her boyfriend find out. Enraged, Wen Jiankong snapped. He had spent months working tirelessly for this woman, believing she would be his forever, only to have his hopes dashed. In their heated argument, Yu Huiyu hit him in a sensitive area, prompting him to strangle her. Realizing he had killed her, Wen Jiankong panicked. He placed her body in the trunk and drove to a remote beach, planning to dispose of her in the sea. He waited until the beach was deserted before throwing her body into the water, thinking he had covered his tracks. However, the next morning, some fishermen discovered the floating body. Initially, they thought it was a mannequin, but upon closer inspection, they realized it was a corpse. The autopsy revealed that the cause of death was drowning. This meant Yu Huiyu had alive when she was thrown into the water, struggling for hours before succumbing. Wen Jiankong initially contacted her parents, pretending to be her friend, and even helped them file a missing person report. However, after a thorough investigation, the police discovered that Yu Huiyu had been in contact with over 50 men. Although they initially suspected her boyfriends, it wasn't until they found traces of blood and torn fabric in Wen Jiankong's taxi that they realized he was the culprit. After being arrested, Wen Jiankong confessed to the murder and was sentenced to life in prison.